I've always been involved with different organizations in Richmond, and there came a point where, not only did my family have to move away from our previous city where we used to live, that we called home, but I started to see families that I cared about having to move away. Black, brown, BIPOC families who were no longer going to schools here, were no longer my neighbors. And so I started to see that there was a correlation between the advocacy we were doing in schools and the fact that people just couldn't live here anymore. And so if we couldn't advocate for better schools and people were being pushed out of our city, then it just didn't seem fair to me. And I was like, we need to do something about the issues around housing. Yeah, Richmond Land is focused on housing development. We are beginning developers working with the community to build and design projects for the community and with the community. We focus on developments in Richmond and West Contra Costa in order to support anti-displacement and to keep community in Richmond.
Well, I've always wanted to be part of a organization with a mission, and I thought Urban Tilth was a great entry level for it, and because it's their mission is to train, so you're learning as you're. Whereas other jobs, it's just you have to come here with 5 years of experience, and it can be pretty exclusive. But I think here you have more of a welcoming spirit, especially for our residents, because it's important to, I saw that they really wanted to attract people who are in the city that they're serving. Our primary mission is to not only make sure, to fight food insecurity. Ideally, we'd want everybody to have access to healthy food, but right now we just got to take it a little bit at a time. So the way we tackle that is by first providing food, either through our deliveries or through our farm stands, and also by educating the residents and our youth in how to grow their own food, whether it be at their home garden or a community garden or a school garden. For the future of Urban Tilth, even though it is a North Richmond farm, and that's what we call our main base, I see it more like a university for Richmond residents, and prioritizing resident-centered visions rather than savior-centered visions, because I feel we have a lot of people who come into our community trying to save us, but there's no acknowledgement of the root causes of our hardships.
My favorite part is being in the community and learning from them, finding out who it is that I'm representing. Focus of the Richmond Progressive Alliance is to take power away from corporations and give it back to the people, give it back to the community. And we do this by engaging the community to elect progressive candidates and to push progressive agendas. Okay, as an elementary school teacher, I realize that each and every one of us is a teacher, and we teach by what we do. So our responsibility is to hold community together, and what I'm trying to do by continuing this work is to be intentional in what I do, because I know that everything that I do is teaching the community.
I want Richmond to be the model city. I want Richmond to be the model city for formerly incarcerated people and the communities that support them. I want us to be environmentally safe. I want us to be environmentally sound. And I want us to be healthy. And I also want us to be a model for the rest of the cities, for the rest of the counties, as a community ran by community. Well, Safe Return Project, our vision and mission is to empower and increase the visibility of all those impacted by the criminal justice system. We are invested deeply in building power and building our base on a state and national level and centering formerly incarcerated people and our rights. My inspiration and drive comes from people that have already been doing this work and how they've laid out the avenues and how they've laid out all the workshops and the learning opportunities for folks to get involved. And me, myself, I experienced the criminal justice system in many various ways. And I find that it doesn't serve all of us in the way that we had intended it to. And so, you know, I am inspired to continue the work that they have started and to be of use and to change the community as the person of change.
Communities for a Better Environment is a California-based environmental justice organization dedicated to empowering local communities to advocate against the legacy pollution that exists in their community, as well as to envision what the future would be like after a just transition to a sustainable and renewable economy. And so I always had an interest in preserving nature, enjoying nature, but then growing up here in Richmond, I became aware of the impact of Chevron and the petrochemical industry, both the harmful effects to the health of our people, as well as the harm to our politics and the corruption of our local politics. And I was always interested in history and politics. I majored in political science at UC Berkeley. My ultimate vision for Richmond is a healthy, diverse community that has gotten rid of the industrial polluters, has cleaned up the legacy pollution sites like AstraZeneca, that has rebuilt the urban core without the gentrification, and has been able to preserve and convert open space into parks and other recreational facilities to help, you know, the community be healthy.
So we've been organizing the Laotian community since 1993, and it was originally called the Laotian Organizing Project. And one of the big things that we noticed within our communities was that people were suffering from higher rates of respiratory issues and cancers. Like, I don't know how many people in my family have died from cancers or various cancers, and how many of us grew up with asthma or just like had respiratory issues. After living through multiple refinery explosions from Chevron and living through the general chemical spill, a lot of people in the community realized that, you know, these big polluters and these big corporations have been poisoning our community. And for us, we decided that, you know, enough is enough, and we started organizing around that. And that's kind of how APEN started. So throughout that whole time, we were able to establish the multilingual warning system that was able to warn a lot of the Southeast Asian community, like when another refinery explosion happened, that, you know, we would have to shelter in place and it would be in language so that people, you know, who don't speak the language are able to be well informed to understand if they need to go inside the house. The just transition model is like rooted in, you know, moving away from, you know, an extractive economy, one that's rooted in militarism and capitalism, to one that's more regenerative. And that kind of goes hand in hand with my identity and a lot of the people's identity here in Richmond.
My deepest connection to Richmond is my family. Like, I have a long line of family that's been here for generations, and my whole entire family lives here. And that's my deepest connection to Richmond. So when I think about taking care of Richmond, I think about taking care of my family, just everybody. My ultimate vision for Richmond is to see our economy thrive, our people thrive, just building off of their own selves, their human capital, and thriving in longevity wealth, you know, and breaking those barriers to inequalities of distributing wealth within our communities. Our work functions in the Just Transition framework because we develop and we launch worker-owned cooperative enterprises and cooperative enterprises for Richmond, California residents. A new wave of thinking, a new wave of allowing ourselves to become the people that make our economy thrive, the people that employ ourselves. We are the bosses, pretty much. you know?
Rich City Rides, the community organization, is a nonprofit that starts things like the bike shop and is looking to start other things that work from the same model of the bike shop in a cooperative fashion. So this is a worker-owned cooperative, meaning that everybody who works here either has a pathway to becoming one of the owners or already is one of the owners. We want to model that because your workplace is one of the most undemocratic areas of your life, but it's also one of the parts of your life where you spend the most time. What inspires me is actually I put a lot of inspiration from the members and staff and community members and volunteers in our organization. You know, they've done everything from inspire the name, to inspire what we do, to inspire what we created, to inspire what the future looks like. It's all pulled from community. So as we consider like new enterprises, well, we keep that in mind. And we look at how we can work with our partners in order to bring these things to light. So groups like Cooperation Richmond, folks like APEN, folks like CBE, the Safe Return Project, we're all working. We're kind of like, you know, you say just transition, we are the Justice League of the transition. We want to create a rich city. You know, a rich city is one where, you know, when you think of like things, think of a rich empire, right? Or a rich kingdom. In all these historic scenarios, it was the few that were really affluent and had the gold and gilded everything. And then you also had the poor people who had little to nothing. The concept of rich needs to be transitioned justly. A rich city, a rich kingdom, a rich empire is one where everybody has what they need. You cannot, it actually doesn't make sense that a rich city would have poor people in it, you know, or a rich planet has folks that need but don't have. So the vision that, you know, my vision, and I think our vision for Richmond, for Rich City Rides, is the rich city where everybody has what they need.